Okay, we're going to finish the progressivism at the national level here. In the last episode, we're just kind of piggybacking right off that. We talked about the things that were dividing the Republican Party, and actually you had the insurgents, or also known as the progressives in the Republican Party, who were not really happy with our boy Taft. So fighting back against his progressive critics, Taft openly supported some conservative candidates for Congress in the midterm elections of 1910. This proved to be a pretty bad mistake for Taft. Progressivism now was really, at this point by 1910, at a high tide, and the progressive Republicans from the Midwest easily defeated the candidates endorsed by Taft. After this election, the Republican Party was really split wide open, as we saw in the political cartoon at the end of the last section, with the insurgent whale going to have nothing but all of Speaker Joe Cannon. But anyway, it was split wide open into two opposing groups. You had the conservative faction, who became loyal to Taft, and the progressive faction. The latter group, the progressive Republicans, fervently hoped that their ex-president and hero, Teddy Roosevelt, would agree to become their candidate again in 1912. And here in this cartoon, you can see that the comet is now visible in Washington, and it's kind of comet of TR, with his teeth, his eyes, his glasses, and he's basically coming back from hunting and making a comeback win in his sights. So an interesting thing happens here as well with the political reform is a third party develops in the first decade of the 1900s that was dedicated to the welfare of the working class. It was originally called the Socialist Labor Party in 1897, and it was changed to the Socialist Party of America by 1901. The socialist platform called for more radical reforms than even the progressives favored. They wanted public ownership of all the railroads, utilities, and even major industries such as oil and steel. Now again, I should note that some of this stuff was actually transpiring in Europe, and it's going to actually become even more popular in Europe after World War I and World War II. So one of the founders of the Socialist Party, Eugene Debs, was the party's candidate for president in 5 elections, 1900 and the last in 1920. He was a former railway union leader who adopted socialism while jailed for the Pullman strike. Debs was an outspoken critic of business and a champion of labor, as we've indicated. On such issues as workers' comp, or workers' compensation, and minimum wage laws, progressives and socialists joined forces. Progressives wanted to distance themselves from the ideas of the socialists, since a majority of the voters favored only mild reforms, not radical causes. Eventually, however, socialist ideas were in fact accepted. Again, we've talked about this, but in the progressivism at the local level, but public ownership of utilities became common. The 8-hour workday became common, and pensions for employees became common. The party reached its peak in the presidential election of 1912 when Debs received over 900,000 votes, which tallied 6% of all votes in the election. So we get into this election of 1912. President Taft was renominated by the Republicans after his supporters excluded TR's delegates from the party's convention. Progressive Republicans then formed a new party and nominated TR. Roosevelt's claim that he was as strong as a bull moose gave the new Progressive Party its nickname, the Bull Moose Party. And after a lengthy balloting, Democrats united behind Woodrow Wilson, a newcomer who had first been elected into office in 1910 as a governor of New Jersey. The Socialist Party, which was gaining strength, again nominated Eugene V. Debs. All right, so here is an example of how the progressive movement seeped into the national spotlight, and it's going to continue there till, I got to say, through Woodrow Wilson and into World War I. But after World War I, it's not going to be as sexy, and we're going to see a relapse, or I don't know what you want to call it, but we're going to go back to ultra-conservative ways, and that's what the 1920s is going to be all about, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned. In class Monday, we are going to do a little expose on, in fact, the election of 1912. Thank you for listening. Have a good weekend.